So today we are joined by Pam Holt, a fellow hospitable host author. And Pam, it is so great to have you with us today. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait to talk to you.
First of all, let's just let our listeners get to know you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're located.
Okay. First of all, I'm in rainy/snowy Chicago, and that's where I live. And I am a host. I host my own home. But my real life before hosting involved, I'm an attorney. I've been an attorney for a long, long time, and I'm a real estate broker. And I earned a living doing those two things, mostly the brokerage portion of it. But I've owned an office and I've managed real estate agents, and I've done everything, worked with developers and nonprofits and luxury housing and new construction and affordable housing, everything. And then I started hosting guests in my home, and I sort of loved it. I love the freedom and flexibility it allowed my daughters and I. And so I'll get into detail in a minute, but that's largely what I'm doing now, in addition to helping others do the same kind of thing.
I love that so much. So I'm curious, how did you discover the world of hosting folks in your home? Talk to us a little bit about how you were introduced to that.
Okay, I fell into it. I had no intention of hosting guests in my home. I never even thought about it. I never even stayed in an Airbnb when I traveled. But a friend of mine, I was leaving the country, and a friend of mine said, you should rent your house while you're gone. And I was like, are you kidding? I have a dog, it's my house. Me and my kids live there. I'm like, who wants to stay in our house? But I thought, why not? Why wouldn't I try it? Other people do it. Why not? So really randomly and kind of just on a whim, I pulled some things together, touched up a little bit of paint, got some fresh linens, put it up, took some pictures literally with my phone, put it on the market. And I was like, it was going to sit empty anyway. So if something happens, great. If nothing happens, and whatever, I'm back where I was to begin with. Mm-hmm. So, almost instantly, like, I don't know, maybe the next day, I started getting inquiries. And I was like, oh, this, okay, well, let's see. So the day that I was leaving to leave the country, my first guest came and checked in, and I thought, this is pretty cool. And so I was going to Africa to meet up with my oldest daughter, who was doing a service project. And I was like, okay, I sell real estate. I can't be away from my job, sadly, for any amount of time. So I'm going to stay 5 days, even though it took one whole day to get there and one whole day to get back. I'm like, we're going to stay 5 days. I got to get back to work. But while we were there, I started to get more and more inquiries. And I was like, hey, okay, I can do this. I can have the place turned over while I'm gone, because I've got cleaning people that I work with anyway. So I'll get them in there. And we ended up extending our vacation. And so what was going to be this week with 2 days of travel turned out to be 3 weeks and 3 different countries. And, we did a big tour of South Africa, and it was fantastic. And I thought, oh, this is very interesting, because previously, my daughters and I hadn't really traveled internationally. We traveled domestically, but, I had 2 private schools to pay for, and they are super expensive here in the city. So we didn't do a lot of that. But after that, I thought, oh, let's just see what this is. So that was July. We finished up that summer renting the house, and the house earned like $50,000. And while I was traveling, I was not even home. I wasn't doing the turnover. I didn't do anything. I didn't do any extra marketing. I didn't do anything. So I thought, okay, this is either a great fluke or, we might be onto something. And so the next year I was like, oh, let's give it a go. But mind you, I can only host during my daughter's school breaks, because we live here. So, spring break, summer, sometimes during the holidays, but that's it. So the next year, the house brought in over $100,000. And we went to Brussels and France. We were in Nice hanging out. We went to Mexico. We went a lot of places and stayed for a long time, and guests paid for all of it. And it was fantastic. So that's how I got started.
Oh, My
Yeah.
gosh. What
Yeah. How about that? It's pretty cool.
What a great story. And so I'm so intrigued by this because, first of all, you are able to extend your vacation across the globe and spend more time with your family, making memories, which is what we all love to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was the whole point. I'm a
Yeah.
single mom, and my oldest daughter had gone off to college. And I was like, I thought about the vacations I took with my family, and we had a motorhome. How goofy is that? Back then it was super goofy. Right now it's a whole lifestyle, but we would all pile in and travel around. But I didn't get to do that with my girls. I was taking care of my dad, and we just didn't have those experiences. And I was like, oh my goodness, she might not come back. I mean, this could be it.
Yeah.
And I need more, essentially, I need more time with her. And so this just, it was like a gift, really
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. So you started out 1 year in July and you rented your home for the 3 weeks that you were gone. Did you rent it for any other time that year? Did you purposefully book trips so that you could rent out your house?
Yes, it was kind of, chicken the egg. Sometimes we would book a trip and then, try to fill it with somebody to pay for it. Or sometimes we would have someone who wanted access and we would take a trip. And over that summer, I have flexibility because my younger daughter wasn't in school. My oldest daughter was gone. So we literally started, there's one year, I guess the following year, my daughter was doing a semester in Spain. And so I was in Europe like 3 times over the course of like 5 weeks. I mean, it was crazy compared to where we used to go, which is like Wisconsin. We would go to,
Right.
there was a big difference between going to,
That's right.
Nice and going to, Lake Geneva. So
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. And, quite candidly, that's one of the benefits of living in Chicago is, you can get a lot of direct flights to all
yeah,
areas of the globe. So that's
yeah,
awesome in and of
yeah.
itself. And so I know that you've developed kind of a list of 5 ways to earn income by leveraging your home, and you call this host to travel. And I think it is
Yeah.
such a brilliant way to describe it because that's exactly what you're doing. And the thought of someone paying for your vacation, hello,
I
like
know, I
that's
know. Does
amazing.
it get any better? I don't know. I call it host to travel, but it doesn't mean you have to travel because I've also used the income to replace the roof in my house, replace my furnace, send to my kid in college. I mean, I use it to travel, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
So you can do whatever you want.
So let's dive into this a little bit because the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh my gosh, there are going to be strangers sleeping in my own bed.
I know. I
Talk to
know.
me about some of the original concerns that you had with the approach and how you have navigated those.
Okay. First of all, that's exactly what I said. I was like, I don't really do strangers and I'm pretty particular. And oh my God, people are going to be in my bed. And then I realized that, when I go to a hotel, somebody's in that bed a whole lot more than they're going to be in my bed at home. And I don't have any problems with that. So what is it that I'm really concerned about? And so I
Mhm.
really thought about it, and I made the decision personally to separate from my possessions, separate from my home, my house, make it more real estate, sort of an asset instead of this place that my kids grew up and all that. All that's true, but I still have all of that. Those are my memories.
Mhm.
And now I have the chance to make more memories with my kids. And so if somebody has to sleep in my bed and that's how I do it, I can live with that. I can be okay with that. I can work backwards. I can, buy a bunch of whatever I think,
Yeah.
sheet sets or protective padding or whatever, however I feel about my mattress, which is not that I'm not that fond of it, so it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. And I've never had any issue with it.
Yeah.
I think it's mindset initially. I think it really
Mm.
is shifting away from your home as this vessel of, emotion that you have and,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
sentimentality and
Yeah.
nostalgia.
Yeah. What a great point, because I could see where that would take quite a paradigm shift to
Mhm,
learn to be okay with that. I'm also curious about some of the logistics of separating
mhm.
yourself from your home. So like the family photos that are plastered everywhere, or your favorite pots and pans that you don't want folks to scratch up. Talk to us about what you chose to do as part of that separation process so that
Mhm.
your home became an asset that was income producing.
Well, we did sort of simplify things. And so our personal photos I have removed, and I didn't throw them away or anything. I have them packed away. And in terms of like pots and pans and those kinds of things, that's the stuff I stepped away from. I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't have any favorite pots and pans. I'm like, why would I favor my pots and pans? I mean, it just, not to be,
Yeah.
snarky about it, but what I do favor is the time that we were in Paris sitting out, on the street having, a charcuterie board or whatever, that's what I cherish. And that's the kind of stuff that I want to have more of, as opposed to pots and pans, which I can buy a new set of pots and pans every single time I have a guest because I charge a lot of money for my house. So, I get all the
Yeah.
pots and pans I want.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great point. That's a great point. Talk to me also about if you feel like there is a certain size of home that bodes well for this type of approach. And as I'm asking that question, I'm feeling like that's a silly question, because just think about it. We all rent different size properties. So I'm sure anyone with any size home
Well,
could do the same approach. Is that an accurate assumption?
yes, I think you could do, anything from a studio apartment to, my house has 4 bedrooms.
Mhm,
And so obviously the size of your home dictates in a lot of cases what you're going to be able to charge for it. But it doesn't mean you can't do it. I
mhm,
think what you really have to do is identify your avatar. Who's going to come to your house? And, is it travelers in to sightsee? Is it families? I live a block from the beach. Is it families coming to the beach? Which I learned the hard way. It's not. In Chicago, no one is coming here to go to the beach.
mhm.
I live also walking distance from a really large convention center. So I have business travelers.
Mhm.
And, but you may be close to a hospital. And so I have also a lot of families that come. They have a family member who is undergoing a procedure. They want to be nearby. They want to all be together as a family. They want to sometimes support the patient when they can't travel right after the procedure. So they want a house.
Yeah.
That works. You might be near a college or university. And so, those football weekends and dropping the kids off in the fall and that whole piece, you have to just kind of figure out who's coming, why are they coming, and how can you best accommodate them.
Mhm, mhm.
When you figure that out, then you can kind of work backwards into, what else you
Right.
need to do in terms of amenities and things.
Right. So interesting. Now, quick question too, from a logistical standpoint. I remember you saying you had a dog. So, talk to me about what you do with the dog every time you have a guest renting your property. Number one. And then number two, is your home pet friendly?
Well, just like almost everybody else, probably, I didn't want pets in my home. I was afraid, which is outrageous because, my dog is pretty big, pretty rambunctious. I'm a dog person. I've always had a dog. I'm like, when I think about it in retrospect, I'm like, really? And what was I worried about? And so, yes, now I am pet friendly. Now I do ask questions about the dogs because my dog doesn't get on the furniture. So I want to know that, your pet's not going to be sleeping in my bed. But beyond that, I take my dog's toys and things. He either comes with us, depending on where we're traveling, or I board him at a really ritzy boarding place for dogs. And that's what we do. So I'd like to say I have evolved as a host, and really I'm really glad I have, because hosting as a pet friendly residence just opened up doors for me that
Mhm,
weren't available before, because
mhm.
people want to travel with their pets a lot.
Sure.
And I'm completely set up for it. I have a dog run. I'm right across the street from a park. I mean, that's why I have a dog here. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't someone with a dog want to stay here? So
Yeah.
we've got it.
Talk to me also about the design. So, design plays such an important part when we're talking about attracting guests. We've got just a microsecond to have our photos really jump out at our guests. And so, design, I found really, really plays a tremendous
Mhm.
role in the success of our properties. Did you end up making any design updates to your home once you decided, "Hey, I'm gonna I'm gonna actually make a go for this and do this on the regular?"
Well, yes and no. I eventually made some upgrades, but I didn't make any before I didn't have income from guests to pay for them. So I'm kind of a design enthusiast anyway. So I feel like my house was pretty pulled together. And I have to say, beyond the initial search, people aren't expecting perfection. So you don't have to have the most beautiful, professionally designed home for it to be attractive to travelers. It's nice that it's eye-catching. It's nice that it's not cluttered. It's obviously nice that it's clean, but it doesn't have to be one particular style or super designed. And so, I get a lot of compliments, but it's just the way my house looked before, just
Yeah.
with a few upgrades. And really, those upgrades are really minor. Like, I got some new pillows for, some more throw pillows. I didn't go overboard because it wasn't necessary.
I love this. Okay, so host to travel, that is where this all started. Talk to us about maybe some other ways if someone is listening and going, "Okay, this sounds really exciting, but I'm not a huge traveler myself. How else can I leverage my own home to earn income?" What
Okay.
are your
So
recommendations?
I've got 5 ways you can do it. The way I do it, as I mentioned, is that I rent my entire home and I travel. So if that's an option for you, which it's not for everyone, but if that's an option, that's great. Now, sometimes we'll get someone who would like to rent the house, but we don't have a trip planned, or we don't, for some reason, we're not able to leave the city. So
Mhm,
we'll get her a hotel. And
mhm,
the hotel will be a fraction of what I'm able to charge nightly, and my kids like it. So we go to, we stay at a fancy hotel and we hang out for the weekend and we do a staycation.
mhm.
And so you could do that if that makes sense for you. But there's other ways. So another way is that you could rent a portion of your home. So you might have, depending on the style of your home, you might have a lower level or a coach house or just spare bedrooms that you're not using. Maybe you're an empty nester, kids are off of college or whatever, you rent out their rooms while they're gone. I mean, there are a lot of different portions of your home. And then you might also still remain in the home while they're there. That's one option. I've done a little bit of that. I've rented rooms to friends and family.
Okay.
So I haven't done it beyond that because I haven't.
I
Another way you can do it is if you have, or if you're planning to buy a second home. I have a lot of people that I know that have 2 properties, so they have primary residence and secondary residence. They're in this place for 6 months, and then they're in this place for 6 months. And when they're away, they're renting. The income that they're generating from the one rental is paying not only for that rental, but also for the second place. So they're essentially living rent free year
Mhm,
round in 2 different residences, which is
mhm,
super cool,
mhm.
especially if you're trying to avoid the seasons and, you're moving around and getting
Amen, sister.
bad weather, it's not a bad thing. Next, you can do, and I've done this too, you can host events in your home. So you can do small, well, I mean, depending on the size of your home, big or small. I do smaller kinds of bridal showers sometimes, or I did a book reading, which I thought was kind of cool, and a corporate event where they were doing team building and they wanted all to be together in a kind of relaxed atmosphere, not at the office. And so you can do those kinds of things. And then you can do media productions. And I've had commercials filmed in my house and photo shoots and a documentary. And so, those are options as well. And those are interesting because a lot of times they're just there during the day. So you can remain in your home a lot of times and they just either come through for one day or they come through for a series of days, but it's just, they don't work into the night. So you're still home.
Yeah.
So those are cool too.
So fun, so fun. Okay, I have some questions about these additional ways that you've shared. And I appreciate you outlining all of them for us. The first question that I have is, when you are renting out rooms in your home or a portion of your home while you are still there,
Mhm.
I'm curious to get your perspective on cameras. So I know, as an example, Airbnb just, outlined a procedure where hosts can no longer have cameras on the interior of their property. Did you ever leverage cameras within the inside of your home while you were staying there alongside a guest?
No, I haven't personally. I don't even have an exterior camera, but I probably should. But I do a lot of vetting, I will say, ahead of time. And I feel absolutely justified because it's my home and I get to make the rules. So if you want to book with me, we're going to have an exchange. We're going to talk about why you're coming, who you're bringing with you. I'm going to need the names of those people. I may do my own independent research. I'm going to make sure that I'm comfortable with you and my property. And so I do a lot of that. But to answer your question specifically, I don't have cameras. And I think, I've worked with a lot of women specifically who host guests in their homes while they're there. And they have very specific boundaries. A lot of times it's a lower level or an upper level with a separate entrance.
Mhm.
And so there's not a lot of commingling. But I also know people who share their home completely, like, refrigerator and living room, and they have that level of intimacy with the guests. It's all about your comfort level and what you're hoping to get out of the experience. If
Mhm.
you're looking to meet people and, to hear about their experiences, and that's part of what you want to do, that's fine. If you are just trying to rent space that's unused or unutilized, underutilized, you can do it that way too.
I love that. Okay, next question is about the events. So I love the fact that you have hosted, team building things and baby showers. I'm curious how those groups found out about your home. Number one, that it could be a viable option where they could have their event. And then number two, did you charge a premium for those events? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I will say that I don't do a lot of events because my house is big enough that a party could break out. And
Mhm.
I'm not trying to do that. And of course, that's not even something you can't do. So if you're going to do some sort of smaller event, first of all, I need to know about it ahead of time. There are certain things I won't allow to have happen. And you will have to stay more than the one night. So it's not a party house. What I've had is someone has a wedding and they have bride party family staying at the house, and they might have a brunch for the family ahead of time or something like that. And so we talk through the logistics. Sometimes I'm nearby and I'll come by and I'll pop in. How's it going? How's it set up? How's it, because it's my home and I feel like I
Mhm.
can do that. I let you know ahead of time. I don't just, crash your party, but I might. So those people have found me on Airbnb and they have just made an inquiry and I'm either yes or no on it. And we go from there. But you can also do the kind of niche sites like Peerspace or Gigster. You can be on those spaces for the media kinds of scenarios, particularly photo shoots and, the kind of commercials that are filmed
Mhm.
in homes. And I think people have a misunderstanding about that because I think they have to have like a chef's kitchen or, a really well done fancy house. But a lot of times, production companies are looking for, a kitchen from the 80s or a regular people's house. They're
Mhm.
filming a regular scene from a regular, whatever, sitcom in a regular
Mhm.
house. And so, I wouldn't shy away from posting on those spaces thinking that, my house isn't a castle or something like
Yeah.
that.
That's a really, really good point. And the other thing I'll just mention is that there are several states around the country that have film incentives that productions are able to get tax rebates from the states to film in their specific state. Illinois, where you live, just happens to be an incentive state. And
Yes.
so I would encourage everyone, if you are interested in leveraging media production and utilizing your home for things of that nature, get on online and research the film incentives
Mhm.
available in your state. There are state groups that actually take care of these and process these incentives.
Right.
So,
And they will
again,
connect you sometimes. If you can register with them, they'll put you in touch with the media production. And the great thing about the media scenarios is that they come with an extra layer of insurance. So
mhm,
they will bring their own contract in addition to whatever contract you have, and an additional insurance policy. And a lot of times, depending on the production, they'll have a person who is there and stays there the entire time and is really there to make sure nothing happens to your property. It's kind of it's production manager, I guess, and
mhm.
they're looking out for your interest. And so, and it's typically covered by, the production. So
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah. Talk to me about, for a media production scenario, are you charging a premium for those types of stays, shall we say?
I do. I do. But, it's all negotiable. So, if they see my regular nightly rate, we go from there. And so
Okay.
sometimes it's more depending on, I had a production company that wanted to start really early some morning. And it was, my check-in is like 4 o'clock. They want to
Mhm.
start like 6 o'clock in the morning. Well, that's extra. So
Pam is laying down the law. I love it.
you can't show up early for free. That doesn't happen. So.
That's so great. I'm curious if you don't mind sharing what one of your favorite memories has been from hosting in your home.
I have this crazy story that I'll try to make short. I got a call, an inquiry from someone who was looking to stay in the home. They were doing some research in a neighborhood near mine. And so they were like, oh, this is perfect. We can just walk over, do our research. They're filming a documentary. And so I was like, oh, that's really cool. What's the documentary about? And so they tell me that they're in town to try and find a family who lived in this neighborhood in the 70s. And I was like, oh, wow. I lived in that neighborhood in the 70s. And they're like, yeah, we're in town looking for Leo Holt and his family. And I'm like, Leo Holt is my father. And it turns out that this director, producer, Emmy winning Golden Globe winning producer is coming to town to find my family and to include us in this documentary, which is now going to be, we're trying to get it in the Sundance Film Festival. And it's a neighbor they're a little bit younger than me, but back in the day, we all lived in the same neighborhood and they're doing a documentary on this neighborhood. And how cool is that?
Oh my
How
gosh.
amazing is that? I mean, I have literally haven't talked to them in 50 years.
That's a God thing. I'm so sorry. I'm just totally going to go squirrel for a minute. And if I'm saying that and it offends anybody, I apologize. But I'm a believer, and I think that is just the work of God. I think that's
I,
amazing.
you know, I have no answers about it because all of the, listings in all of Chicago, they would happen to be coming here. They couldn't find us for some reason. We didn't know they were looking. It all came together. Now we're buds. And, I've been there to their home. They've stayed here since then. We're doing this film. It's fantastic. I love the story.
Mhm.
And so that's my favorite story. How about
Oh
that?
my gosh, that is so cool. That is really unique, girlfriend.
Mhm.
That's
Right.
awesome.
So, check us out. We're going to be, it's being released in the fall, this film. So,
I
right.
feel like I need to get your autograph next time I
I
see you.
know.
Okay, so Pam, I'm curious if anyone is listening and thinking, okay, I'm really intrigued about actually utilizing my own home to generate income. What advice would you have for them? What do you feel like would be the best next steps for them to dive into?
First of all, I would consider my things. What's in your home that if something happened to it, which, first of all, I'll say, not that much happens to the stuff. I mean, I've never had anything broken. I've never had anything stolen, which, of course, were my big concerns. Nothing like that has happened. The reality is, you know, nobody really wants your stuff, with all due respect to you and your stuff, they're not coming to your home to get your stuff. There's
Mhm.
easier ways to, do it. They're not going to book through Airbnb to get your stuff. So anyway, but if there are things that are very meaningful for you, and I do respect people that have these kinds of things, remove them from the home or secure them some way. So the guests don't have access. It never becomes an issue. And then you're not spending, your time away worrying about your whatever the artwork that your kids did when they were in kindergarten or something,
Mhm.
and it's just not there for them to damage or accidentally damage or something like that. And after that, take a look around, maybe have a friend come by, give you a real honest opinion on what you might want to spruce up or improve, and then try it. Just try it. But I will say that for the first few stays, that you should stay locally. I would not leave the country. I wouldn't do it the way I did it. I wouldn't
Mhm.
leave the country and, hope for the best and to have 24 hours before you could even get back if something happened. So I would stay nearby, see how it goes, and see if you like it. The best part is if you don't like it, you just literally turn it off. It's
Mhm.
you press a button and you pause your listing, and that's it. Grand
Mhm.
opening, grand closing.
So good. I love it. I love it. Okay, I want to move to what I like to call the lightning round. Okay,
Okay,
and I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'm just going to ask you to answer with the very first thing that comes to mind.
I'm ready.
Number one, where is your favorite place to vacation?
Oh, everywhere. But I will tell you, when we were in the south of France, I was like, oh, I'm not only do I want to vacation here more often, I want to move here. And I really liked Nice, I have to say,
Mhm.
Nice and Monte
Mhm.
Carlo. But can you not? Is it possible not to like those places?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay, where's one place you've never been that you want to visit?
Oh, I wanna go to Tuscany. I was watching, a show, The Reluctant Traveler, and I was watching Eugene Levy, and he went to Tuscany, and I was like, "Ah, that is everything I want,"
Yes.
beautiful scenery and great wine and, a laid back
Mhm.
lifestyle, I'm into it.
Love it, love it. I spent 1 day in Italy. I was there for business, and I had an evening meal, obviously, with my client, and they took me out, obviously, for this beautiful Italian meal. And I was not in Tuscany, but I was thinking, I totally wanna come back here because just the food and wine alone would make you travel, like, halfway around the world.
Yes, yes, I wanna do it, if I can get booked up for a good amount of time, I will stay and do the whole boot,
There you
top
go.
to shaft and down to the toe, the whole thing.
I love it. Okay, what's one thing you know now that you wished you knew when you were starting out?
You know what? When I started, I thought everything had to be perfect. I did.
Mm,
And I almost didn't do it because, like I said, I had a dog and he scratched my wood floors. I should have redone my floors. They needed it. But I didn't because I wasn't sure this was going to work. And I still had my dog. And I spent a lot of time like, oh, my house is it going to be nice enough? And so I underpriced it and I didn't believe. And no one in the history of guests coming to my home has ever said anything about the floors. I subsequently got them redone because I just couldn't stand it anymore. But at the time, I literally charged 3 times what I used to charge when I was so worried about, my
mhm,
house not being perfect. So
mhm.
get beyond that. No one really cares.
Love that. Okay, next question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Ever?
Ever.
I heard that Oprah or somebody in that realm, people I don't know, said that when someone tells you about themselves, believe it. I think it's something like that. Believe what you don't necessarily, this is my interpretation, believe what you wouldn't necessarily want to believe about someone because it could be true. That's my, cannibalization of that, of what they said. Sorry, but that's what it
Sorry,
is.
Oprah. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
exactly. I know, don't sue me, come on.
Oh, that's great. Okay, last question. What's one thing and or person that you're grateful for today?
I'm grateful for my parents. I've just, it's corny, but my parents overcame a lot. My parents were from Chicago. My dad's Black, my mom's white. In the 60s, this was not an easy place to live,
Mhm, mhm.
and they persevered. And I'm proud of the way that they handled the things that happened to them. And I think I'm who I am because they were who they were.
That's
So
amazing.
there you go, mom and dad.
There you go, mom and dad. I love that. I love that so much. Pam, if someone is listening and they're thinking, I totally want to get a hold of her and ask her more questions or find out how she might be able to help me, what's the best place for folks to find you online?
I am at pamholt.com or homesharesuccess.com, but I'm always at pamholt.com. That's got all my stuff.
All
You
the
see,
things.
yeah, all the things. Start there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being with us. This has been so fun.
Thanks. It's always fun talking to you.